Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're on a mission. We're going to map out exactly how you can transform your quiet, internal aspirations into a tangible, lived reality. We are focusing intensely on the discipline it takes to grab what exists only in your mind and meticulously build it out into the real world.
But right off the bat, let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like you're just drifting through your days, going through the motions without any real sense of why? It's a huge, almost universal pain point for so many of us. We wake up, we smash our to-do lists, put out a few fires, and suddenly a whole year has just vanished. And that deep, burning goal we once had, it feels further away than ever.
Our source material hits the nail on the head with this line. Dreams are wishes wrapped in dust. It's such an evocative idea, isn't it? It really emphasizes just how fragile our deeper goals become when we don't actively protect them from life's daily grind. If we just leave them sitting unattended on the shelf of our minds, well, they literally just gather dust.
Okay, so let's dive right into part one, finding quiet in the noise. Now, notice how we're completely redefining the word dreams here. We aren't talking about those weird, fleeting illusions you get while you sleep. We're talking about the shape your deeper desires take right before they find a way into your ordinary life. Whether they show up as this grand, long-term purpose, or even just recurring themes in the back of your mind, they offer genuine, honest data about what actually matters to you. So the million-dollar question is, how do we actually access that information? Well, the source frames this as a conversation between three layers of your mind. You've got the layer that's totally absorbed in your immediate daily tasks. Then the layer processing stuff right below your conscious awareness. And finally, the third layer, which is taking the long-term view of what a life is actually for. The problem? That crazy daily rush completely crowds out the third layer. When you're constantly in reaction mode, you just tune out that deeper signal entirely. That is exactly why carving out regular time for quiet reflection isn't just nice to have, it's absolutely crucial if you want to identify your true desires. And that understanding naturally builds into a real, actionable practice. The specific method you use to reflect, it matters way less than your consistency in actually doing it. Whether you're journaling with your morning coffee, taking a quiet walk without staring at your phone, or honestly just paying attention to the recurring themes in your head, simply setting aside that tiny pocket of time is enough to bring a totally renewed sense of direction. It rarely hits you as some rigid instruction. It's usually more like a subtle nudge, or attention that's just begging to be explored. Moving right along to part two, defining your true desires. Look, an aspiration that exists only as a vague wish, it's going to fade. It will inevitably get steamrolled by immediate pressures. But a concrete aspiration, when you actually treat as something real to be worked toward, well, that becomes an incredibly resilient foundation. And the real bedrock of that concrete aspiration, it's genuine, sustained belief. Without a rock-solid conviction that your goal is worth pursuing, even your best-laid plans are going to lose their momentum pretty fast. I absolutely love this thought from the text. Life is like a dream, where you get to shape your reality by turning your dreams into actual experiences. You are literally the architect of your own existence. But actually, scratch that. You only get to design the building if you show up to the construction site, right? You have to actively participate in the whole shebang. And a big part of that participation involves letting your imagination wander a bit. Picturing how a goal might unfold is super vital for your ambition to take its shape. But, and this is a big but, unstructured thinking that's left totally unchecked can very quickly drift into old worries or unresolved stress. The professional guidance here is to let your imagination roam, for sure, but keep it within loose boundaries. Keep your focus oriented toward what you genuinely want, rather than whatever random anxiety happens to pop up today. Which brings us to part three, guarding against daily distractions. As the source notes, time, that elusive companion, often presents both opportunities and challenges. It's so true. Your goals are incredibly vulnerable to the pileup of smaller everyday concerns. Just like a fragile piece of glass can shatter from repeated tiny taps, your biggest ambitions can just be crushed under the sheer weight of less important but way more urgent daily demands. So how do we protect them? Well, we steal a page right out of professional project planning. First, establish a timeline. Even a loose one gives you a much-needed framework. Second, take a hard, clear-eyed look at your real constraints. You've got to separate what you can actually do from pure wishful thinking. And third, accept support from others. Seriously, very few worthwhile goals are achieved entirely solo. Acknowledging that support with real gratitude, that's what sustains the relationships you're going to need to keep progressing.
Listen, this is a seriously hard-hitting truth from the text that you absolutely must remember. Unstructured ambition is the most easily lost. Just wanting a specific future to happen is never, ever enough on its own. Without sustained attention and a basic structure holding it up, a perfectly good goal risks turning into nothing more than an idea you thought was cool once.
Okay, shifting gears to part 4, setting rigid personal boundaries. This right here is your critical defensive strategy. You have to set rigid personal boundaries to guard against all the external noise. You need to be hyper alert to these threats against your self-direction. It is way too easy for work and random obligations to just totally crowd out your personal goals. Watch out for people who, whether they mean to or not, just absorb a massive amount of your time and energy without giving much back. Notice if you're letting these patterns happen on autopilot, rather than making an active choice. And honestly, most importantly, stop waiting for fairness to just magically assert itself over time. It won't. Because the cost of weak boundaries? It's steep. The text puts it so bluntly. Allowing multiple influences to manipulate your life, you end up just a fraction of your potential, a mere echo of what you intended. Think about that. Becoming a mere echo of your own intentions is an incredibly painful alternative to simply standing up and protecting your time. So, bottom line, managing and rejecting intrusion into your life is your responsibility. Nobody is coming to save your time for you. You've got to be crystal clear about your personal priorities and be totally willing to say no to demands that get in the way. Taking responsibility to manage these dynamics directly, instead of just crossing your fingers and hoping they fix themselves, is what actually drives real results.
And finally, part 5, taking the first concrete step.
Okay, we've talked reflection, we've talked setting rigid boundaries. Now we bring the whole thing down to immediate physical action. Consider this your ultimate warning against putting things off. Dreams have a tendency to fade away if not actively pursued. The longer your goal just sits there unattended, the more likely it is to be bumped down the priority list, forgotten entirely, or just swallowed up by the daily chaos of your life.
You know, imagination is really just the starting line. It only matters if it actually leads you to do something. The very first step you take toward a goal, no matter how tiny it is the dividing line. It's what separates a private, theoretical hope in your head from a goal that's actually out there in motion. The sooner you pair that new clarity you found with immediate action, the less time there is for your circumstances to pull you off track.
So, your core takeaway here, you've got to act promptly. Now, I don't mean being reckless. I mean recognizing that most goals are incredibly fragile in the beginning. Consistent, timely action is literally your shield. It's what protects your aspirations from that slow, creeping decay of competing priorities. It is what gives a fragile goal a fighting chance to survive and actually become real.
So I'm going to leave you with this one lingering question. You now know that your personal direction is worth guarding with your life, and you know the kind of discipline it takes to transform those quiet aspirations into a reality. The only question left is, will you seize the chance to live out your dreams today? Take that first step, set those ironclad boundaries, and please refuse to be just an echo of what you intended. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.